Hey young friends, Dr. Bill here. As always, I am so glad that you have chosen to spend some time with me as we continue to work our way through the big names in the Bible. You may recall that several weeks ago we began talking about the 12 minor prophets. Those are the prophets that don't get as much publicity, they don't get as much notice as, say, some of the more famous prophets amongst the Hebrew people, people like Isaiah and Jeremiah. So the 12 minor prophets are known among the Hebrew people as the Book of the 12. And today we're going to take a look at Obadiah, which is not only the shortest book in the Book of the 12, but it's also the shortest book in the entire Old Testament. We'll begin with the name Obadiah. It was quite common for the Hebrew people to name their sons Obadiah. The name simply means servant of God. Now, unfortunately, the book of Obadiah doesn't give us a whole lot of information. So we really can't say anything about Obadiah in terms of where he was born, where he was raised, what he was like, what he did for a living. We just don't have any of that information. Nevertheless, the book of Obadiah is very, very important. It appears that Obadiah spoke and prophesied during the time when the Hebrew people returned to their homeland after being in exile in Babylon for many, many years. When the people returned to their homeland, they found everything in ruin and disarray. And so they had to begin the hard task of rebuilding, of putting their lives back together. It was almost as if they were having to start over from scratch. So as a result, they were at times discouraged and disheartened. And as well, they were also angry. They were angry at the nation of Edom, which is a country to the southeast of Jerusalem. Now, they were angry at Edom, and God was angry at Edom for two reasons. One, the people of Edom did not come to the aid of the Hebrew people when Babylon threatened to overrun them and to lay siege to Jerusalem and to destroy the country. Edom was supposed to be a friend of the Hebrew people, but in these circumstances, they chose not to do anything to help anyone. And we can kind of get a feel for that whenever the people we think are our friends, when we really need them, they fail to show up. And so the Hebrew people and God was angry because Edom failed to show up for the Hebrew people. And as well, once the Babylonians took control of the nation of Israel and began to loot the temple and to loot the riches that the people themselves had, well, Edom joined in. They came in and said, we want to have a share of this loot. And so they took advantage of the Hebrew people's desperate situation. And as well, the people of Edom also turned in Hebrew people who were trying to hide and escape being carried off into exile. The people of Edom turned those Hebrew people in, and as a result, they were carried off to the land of Babylon, which was far, far away. So not only were the Hebrew people angry at Edom, but Obadiah insists that God was angry with the nation of Edom. And as a result, the tone of this book is very harsh, and it conveys the sense that God is going to judge the people of Edom. He is going to punish them for the way they treated the Hebrew people. Now, despite all of that, there are some positive things that we can take from this very, very short book. The first is this: the book of Obadiah insists, excuse me, still recovering from COVID. The book of Obadiah insists that the moral compass of the universe isn't broken. In other words, people reap the consequences of their choices. That never changes. Throughout Scripture, we often find a reference to these words. We reap what we sow. We reap what we sow. We get the consequences of our actions. And Obadiah spoke to the Hebrew people and said, make no mistake about it. The people of Edom are going to reap the consequences of their actions. There still is justice. There still is right and wrong in the universe. That's what God is after. And as well, the book of Obadiah assures not only the Hebrew people, but also us, that anyone who suffers injustice at the hands of the powerful, well, God takes notice of them. God does not abandon them. And so by proclaiming that God was going to punish the Edomites, God was in essence saying to the people of Israel, I have heard your cries. I have seen the wrong that has been done to you, and I am going to fix it. I am going to make it right. Can you imagine how heartening that was, how encouraging that was for the Hebrew people? Here they were trying to rebuild their land, to rebuild everything, and at times discouraged and disheartened, and to hear, hey, Edom is not going to escape. I have taken notice of you and your plight, and I want to assure you that I have not forgotten you, and I have not forgotten what Edom did to you. And so the book underscores the message that God pays attention to those who are on the margins of life, those who are often treated poorly by those who are in power. And finally, woven through this little book is an affirmation that the people of God always have a future. No matter how discouraging our circumstances, no matter how poorly we have been treated by our friends, no matter how dark the present moment may seem to be, the message of Obadiah is that God is still in the business of making a way forward. He is still in the business of creating a future, that we have something to look forward to. Well, that'll do it for the book of Obadiah. Again, if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me, and I would welcome the opportunity to have some conversation with you. I know that for many of you, school is beginning this week, and so I am praying that you'll have a great start to a new school year, and that you will learn and you will thrive in all that you do. Again, thanks for joining me, and I pray God's blessings upon you, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Goodbye.